Hello, welcome to the G.I. Joe New News Classified Reviews. My name is David T. Allen, or if you would like, Super Dave 817. If you would like to see more of this content, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification button for future videos. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the G.I. Joe New News Classified Review. I'm David T. Allen, and if you'd like, you can call me Super Dave 817. So we are here to talk about another vintage package figure, this time Storm Shadow, the original Storm Shadow. So this is a very interesting one in that it wasn't that long ago that we got the version 1 Storm Shadow. So it was a little bit surprising that we got the vintage packaged Zart Storm Shadow this close to that one. It's about 30 figures or so, give or take, since the last Storm Shadow. So maybe it's okay, I'm not sure. But there are some differences. So we will go into that when we get to it. So this is the version one that we already got of Storm Shadow there with the hood and everything. There are some slight differences with that. Storm Shadow got his first appearance in issue 21 of The Real American Hero by Larry Hama, the famous silent interlude issue 21, where it was revealed that Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes were part of the same clan. They both had the Arashikage symbol on their arms at the end of that issue, where they're both ripped off, and so it was revealed that they are connected in some way. So that mythology continued on through A Real American Hero for quite some time. Storm Shadow first got his first appearance in Sunbow animation with the Weather Dominator miniseries. And he fights one of my all-time favorite characters in that story, Spirit. And so they have a bit of a feud, Storm Shadow and Spirit, in that. They don't mention his connection to Snake Eyes or the Arashikage or any of that stuff in that miniseries. So let's get into this. So this is the fifth vintage packaged figure in the initial Walmart exclusive set of figures that was released through Walmart. Again, they were not packaging these figures very well when they shipped them out. You can see this one's all bent up and there's creases and dents all over it and everything like that. So even these, and these were pre-ordered, they were not coming very well. Again, we have a nice, beautiful homage to Hector Garrido's art with that explosion back package, and you can see they tried to capture those really sinister eyes in there on the package that Hector Garrido was so famous for. But this is definitely the new figure because there's differences on this figure, and you can tell that it's not the vintage figure. So this is a new piece of artwork that they incorporated on this. It looks really nice. Nothing wrong with it. It looks perfectly fine. So then we have the cross cell on the back, and you can see who our next figure is going to be for the vintage package line. It's going to be another Zartan. There, Zartan. So when we get to that, it'll be 5 more figures before we get to that Zartan. So let's see what this file card has to say about Storm Shadow. It says, role, covert ops, primary specialty, assassin, secondary specialty, intelligence, birthplace, classified. Storm Shadow can trace his family history through 30 generations of assassins. He can scale sheer walls with bare hands and feet and move with blinding speed. So there you go. There's a little bit of background into Storm Shadow. So we're going to get this opened up, and we'll see what the differences are between him. And this is not going to be that very long of a video, depending upon you guys in the chat. If you want to ask questions or talk about something, it could go longer, but I don't anticipate it being that long. All right. So then we'll put his package over there. And again, they have the these cool stands that the figures come with. And so his has the Cobra sigil on it there. And he comes with the legal gobbledygook and all the paper, all that stuff. So I'm going to stick that back in there. There. And again, this is the first time we're opening all these figures up. So let's he's got another little accessory thing over there. We'll put that aside. Pull out the figure. And we're doing all these vintage package figures every 5 figures. So we reached 60 on our last video. So that gave us the opportunity to open up this figure next. So every 5 regular classified numbered figures, we will then open up a vintage packaged figure. So there's Storm Shadow. Pretty much, I would say pretty good for a vintage version 1 Storm Shadow. Let's look at it with comparison to the previous one. The one that I have here, the white is a little more yellow, like a little bit more cream, and this is more solid white, like cadmium white. And this is more of a cream color. The skin tones look the same. This one has sheaths on the arms. Not sheaths, but these gauntlets on the arms. These elbow gauntlets that this version does not have. He has the same protective, I guess you would call it tape or something that's around his ankles and his wrists that this first version has. He's got the same secondary belt and strap around his chest. This one has the stars and the silver buckle. That one has the stars and silver buckle. He has the same Arashikage, not the Arashikage, the Cobra sigil on his chest. The one on this one is a darker, more crimson red, where that one's a little brighter. He still maintains that really good eyes. Let's see if I can get that in the light. Can't really see that very well, but you can kind of see that sinister glare in there in the eyes almost. I don't know if you guys can get a good view of that. Crushy Old Crow, thank you for joining us today. Good morning. Happy Tuesday indeed. So we're going over vintage package Storm Shadow today. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So there are some slight differences from this version, vintage, to the other one. There's a little bit, this is more of a cream white, whereas this is more of a solid cadmium white. So there are slight differences. So let's look at some of the accessories to see if we have any differences. All right, so he has for one, I don't believe the other one had a throwing star hand, so that's new. The throwing star hand, that was not on the previous Storm Shadow. So I like the throwing star hands. I may even put that on him because I like those throwing star hands better. And then he has a fist, a punching fist hand. Let's see. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to take his left hand off. I'm going to put the throwing star hand on because I like the throwing star hands. I switched out one of my, oh, it's the right hand, so I can't do that one on that one. So let me put that one back and take out this one. So that's the right hand, not the left hand. So that's good because I think my Snake Eyes has it on the left hand. So now there'll be a difference there. So now I've got the throwing star hand on the right side. There you go. And then I'll put these hands right over there. So then let's see. We have his famous bow that he used to kill the Hard Master. Spoiler alert there. And it's very, very flexible. This one was a lot sturdier. The bow on the vintage, the previous one. This is a lot softer plastic. It has, whereas this one is more of a red for the handle. You kind of see there's a little red on that handle. This one is white. So they changed up the color deco for that. So we'll put that there. And then he has an arrow with a white feather and white tip. I don't know if you guys can see the white on that, but there is a white tip and white arrow there. And then he has a sword, one sword, silverish sword, with a little bit of cool detailing on the sword, Storm Shadow sword. Put that there. And then he has a second sword. Very similar to that sword, almost identical. Looks a bit longer than that sword, but maybe not. Yeah, it's a smidge longer. So I'm going to put the package over here, out of the way. And then he has in this other plastic part, he has his backpack. And he has, it's the same backpack as the previous one, with the exception that it is has white arrows instead of red arrow tips or feathered arrows. And then he has the red Arashikage symbol on the sheath there. So there is a spot for an arrow in there. So I'm going to stick his arrow in there. Doop, there, the arrow goes in there. And then there's two places for swords. So I'm going to place his large sword here and his smaller sword here. So I have the arrow and the two swords on there. I'm going to put that on his back. Let's see. Now, because he's got that secondary belt on, I'm going to kind of put it behind that and not use that. I'm going to kind of just try to go right into the back with it. Hopefully it'll hold up better. There. So then I have the backpack with the swords and the arrow on the back. I have the star hand on there. Now he does have the hood, like secondary kind of thing on there, but he doesn't have the actual hood that the first version had. See how that one has that hood, and he doesn't have that part. So that's one accessory they didn't include with this. Let's see. So I'm going to put him on his stand to make it easier for him to stand up there. And then there. Move his feet around a little bit. There. So he's on his stand now. I'm going to put him there for now. I'm going to slide this stuff off here. I'm going to put the comic over here, out of the way. All right, so There's a little doodad on the back of the backpack. I think that is a place where he can place the bow. So I'm going to put the bow on there. I'm going to try and put the bow on there in that little doodad um, to hold it in place. I'm going to see if I can get it to do that because it's very, very loose and I don't really want to put it on in his hand. I'm going to take his backpack back off. See if I can get this in that. There's a little doodad there. Bobby World, hello. Thanks for joining us. Not a whole lot of changes, but I prefer the retro over the main run. Yeah, the main one is slightly different deco than the vintage one. The vintage one is much closer to the um, original version, I would say. Let's see. Trying to get the bow to go in the backpack. There's a little thing there to hold it, but it doesn't seem to want to go in there. For some reason, maybe I'm not putting it in the right spot. I thought that was the right spot, but it might not be. Hmm. Well, I don't know. I don't want to just hang it off there because it just doesn't look like it would make sense to do that. I think this part in the middle is the correct spot, but it just doesn't want to stay in there. There's too much stuff in the way. So, well, I can't get that to stay. So I'll just put it in his hand, and we'll be done with that, and put this back on his backpack. So there, and then we'll kind of just put this in his hand here. Let's see. All right, we got his bow in his hand. We have his backpack back on his back, and we have his throwing star in his arm there. So he's got this little black gi type strap that's attached to one of his secondaries belts. He's got the same 90, almost all the same articulation points. He's got the new head ball joint. He's got the butterfly elbow, butterflied shoulders, the double pinned elbows, double pinned knees. He's got the calf articulation, the thigh articulation. He's got the hand articulation. I don't believe he's got the secondary wrist, but let me see. Yeah, he does. He's one of the few figures that has the secondary wrist articulation. He's got the foot rockers, the second ankle articulation. He's got the crotch and the leg articulation, similar to all the other figures. He's got the chest, I'm having a hard time remembering what the chest articulation is, but he's got the chest articulation, um, ab crunch articulation. That's the name of it, the ab crunch articulation. And then he's got the waist articulation. So that is all the articulation points. And he's got all the same, like pretty much the same mold. So all the layering and stuff is all very similar. It's just whiter, a brighter white than the previous one. So this does not have a lot of differences. There are slight differences, and that's fine. You know, if you want to do photography, like Bobby World, you do photography. If you wanted to do different shades of Storm Shadow and different lighting and stuff, it might be better to have the bright one, or it might be better to have the cream one. My very version is version 2 Storm Shadow. Although I'm not that pleased with the classified version of version 2, I would have liked it to have been closer to the vintage version. They upgraded it with classifying elements and stuff like that, which is fine. But when we get to that figure, I'll be a little bit more critical probably of it, because it is my favorite version of that character, or that version of Storm Shadow along the way. So yeah, so we're all done with Storm Shadow, number 5 in the vintage package collection. And our next figure is going to be number 61, and it is going to be a very interesting character, because this character is not from the vintage line. It is from the 2000s, the new sculpt era, and I will have a lot to say about this particular character, because the history of this character is quite an interesting history. So that'll be the next one. It'll be in line with Storm Shadow to a certain extent. It will be a ninja, another ninja. So hopefully that gives you guys enough clues to who this next character is. So I'm looking forward to that, because I've spoken to the creator of that character extensively and stuff like that. And this was going to be a short video I mentioned earlier, so we don't have to worry about that too much. You know what would be kind of cool is putting one of these Storm Shadows up against my Ryu. I have my Ryu figure right over here. We could put my Ryu figure up against Storm Shadow. How's that? And we're getting pretty close to getting the 150 subs that we would want to get to open up another Street Fighter figure. That's pretty close. Storm Shadow is a slightly smaller figure. Ryu is a smidge bulkier than him, but I think maybe I put him against this Storm Shadow instead. Yeah, he looks a little bit better against that Storm Shadow. Ryu does. I think that would be fun, right? To do a battle scene with the three of them, or him and some other ninjas. So once we get to that 150 subs, I'm going to let you guys pick in the video who you would like to be the next Street Fighter that we open. I was going to go with Ken, but I'm going to let you guys choose instead to make it more interesting, because I'll give you a whole bunch of choices to pick from, and you can pick which one you want me to open. And then that'll get me another Street Fighter, so I can have Storm Shadow fight him, or Snake Eyes, or some other ninjas that are coming down the road. I really like the ninja aspect of G.I. Joe. I know a lot of people don't like that aspect that much, but I always felt that gave Larry Hama's G.I. Joe a different layer in storytelling, with the ninja, the Arashikage lore, and the ninja lore, and all these different cool ninjas that would pop up from time to time. I would love Classified to do all the Arashikage ninjas. The hard master, the soft master, the blind master, the old master. I would like to get a this is a little spoilery, but the Firefly as the Blurred Master, I think it would be really cool to get a Firefly in his gray gi with like a head that's like blurred. I think that would be so cool. And then also get the swordsmith and stuff like that, that Zartan learned how to make swords and do all that stuff. Get him as a figure. I would love to get all those guys. Billy, this next character that we're going to be getting, and then 2 or 3 other characters, and all the actual Joe characters like Buddha, Cha-Ching, Banzai, Nunchuck, all those characters are all coming. And Tajinsu, Slice, Dice, the Night Creepers, all that stuff. I love all that stuff. I think it's wonderful, and I think it really added to the lore. And I liked how Larry Hama helped these characters become distinct and their own characters. Like Budo. Budo is a really cool character. When the toy came out, I wasn't too thrilled, but they really added a lot to him with storytelling and the lore of him. And over the years, he's warmed up to me, and I really kind of like Budo now. After the IDW era and the Devil's Due era of storytelling. So I like that a lot. Hey, Terrence Childs, how's it going? Have you seen the comic book crossovers of Transformers and G.I. Joe? Yeah, I have all those crossovers. I have every G.I. Joe Transformer crossover. The vintage Transformers G.I. Joe crossover from the 80s was the pits. The Devil's Due did some really good crossovers with the company that was doing Transformers at the time. G.I. Joe was being done by Devil's Due, but then Transformers was being done by another company. I cannot think of the company off the top of my head, but it was a really beautiful style of art that they did. It was all anime style of art with Transformers, but they did several crossovers. So G.I. Joe was through Devil's Due, and they did crossovers, and then this other company, Mindstorm or something, they did G.I. Joe Transformer crossovers in theirs. So they were both doing crossovers at the same time, but they each handled their own. And so then IDW did the Hasbro Combined Universe crossovers, where they crossed over G.I. Joe, Transformers, Mask, ROM, Micronauts, Visionaries, Action Man, all that stuff crossed over into one huge combined universe. And now Skybound is doing the Energon universe, which is obviously from Transformers, but G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Void Rivals, and now, spoiler warning again, Mask and probably Visionaries are going to be in there, because they have touched base on the world of the Visionaries toy line. I can't think of the name of that planet. I've done different discussions on that with comics in the past, and I talked about the Visionary planet. So they're starting off right now with a bunch of the properties already: Mask, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Visionaries. So we'll see where that goes, but it can only be great for us fans of G.I. Joe. Sunbow was kind of connected to a certain extent. They did touch with certain properties that they did in Sunbow. There's connections with Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem and the Holograms, and Humanoids are the only properties that I know of that kind of Cups kind of connected to a kind of connected universe. But I believe that was all the Sunbow people connections had. If I'm mistaken, somebody in the chat correct me, but I think those are all the connections. Mask was not owned by Hasbro at the time. ROM was not. Micronauts was not either. So then, and neither, well, technically Action Man was being licensed by Palitoy at the time. So they didn't use Action Man, but they technically own Action Man, but they weren't using him. He was owned by Palitoy at that point in the 80s. So those are the only connecting crossovers in the 80s. Let's see. Speaking of Mask, do you have any of those Mask action figures or playsets? Yeah, I've talked about this before. I have my favorite Mask toy. I'm trying to get the new ones from Loyal Subjects. Terrence Child. I'm trying to get the new ones, but I'm waiting a little bit. So I have my my vintage Hurricane. My vintage Hurricane right here. But I plan on getting all the other ones from Loyal Subjects. I plan on getting all the other ones from Loyal Subjects at some point. They just revealed at San Diego Con that the Hurricane and another one. Oh, good morning, Sean Jones. Thanks for joining us today. They plan on doing another wave, and the Hurricane is in the second wave. So I will definitely be getting the Hurricane because that's my favorite Mask vehicle. And I want to get all the Mask vehicles from Loyal Subjects. But like I said, I'm waiting to see if they're going to be going to Walmart to see if they'll be cheaper that way, because they're very expensive through Big Bad Toy Store and shipping and so forth. Even if you bought you did the bundle, it was like $350, and I just didn't have the means to do that. No, I don't have the vintage Switchblade, Terrence Child. I don't have any other vintage ones. I only have the Hurricane at this point. Who's to say what Mask I'll get down the line, vintage or otherwise? But I do plan on getting the Loyal Subjects ones because I do love Mask. I've never been able to. I had the opportunity to go back and get them at a reasonable price, but I may do that very soon. Depends on how things go. But yeah, I love all those Mask vehicles and stuff, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do in Skybound with Mask. It should be really interesting. They already introduced Matt Tracker. Again, spoiler warning: Matt Tracker's in Skybound. But yeah, I think there's some really cool stuff headed our way. I think the way that they're building it is really nice, slow and methodical. Hey, Bobby World, let's see. I like to see them do Matt Tracker in the classifieds like they did in the 25th anniversary. Yeah, I've talked about this a few times on different videos when they introduced Mask and talked about Mask in Skybound. I have a kind of a love-hate situation with those Mask figures. I thought it was great that they introduced Matt Tracker to keep the license Hasbro to make a figure of him and to continue that. But when they did the Revelations box, that they changed his ethnicity, and I wasn't too fond of them changing that. I didn't see the reason for that, but then they continued that with Skybound as well, and I'm not thrilled with that, but it is what it is. I don't have control of these properties. I don't see the significance in changing a character's ethnicity if it doesn't affect the character that much. It doesn't change who the character is or what the character history is or his motivations or anything. Why do that just for the sake of being woke? I don't get it. Comic book companies do that a lot. Thankfully, a lot of times they'll change the name slightly, or they'll make him a relative or something like that, and then they'll come out with a new version, a legacy version. But they did not do that with Matt Tracker. They just changed his ethnicity for no good reason, in my opinion. But it is what it is. But I was very happy they did those figures and those sets. Is just I was not happy about how they handled the Matt Tracker situation. So yeah, I love all that crossover stuff. I'm looking forward to what they could do. So if they do a Matt Tracker, it's probably going to be African American ethnicity for a classified figure. So I'm not too pleased with that because there are plenty of GI Joe characters that are African American. They got like 30 or 40 different characters that are African American and different ethnicities and so on and so forth. Why they need to do that, I don't know. So anything else you guys got for the chat you want to ask? So like I said, if we get to 150, we'll open up another Street Fighter. We'll let you guys choose which one that is. We're pretty close to 150 now in the subs. We've passed the 150 videos, so there won't be a matching of the synergy on the videos, but it's fine, you know. So I hope you guys enjoy this bit of a deep dive into Storm Shadow and the Rashikage vintage version of him. We have a cool character coming up next. I think I mentioned it earlier. And so if that's everything, then I'm going to call this one quits. Any more questions? I got a few minutes here. If you guys have something you want to ask or some information you would like to impart or talk about for a little while? No? Nothing? Alrighty. Then we're going to call this one quits. And this is a Cobra video. So, Hail Cobra! We'll see you guys in the next one for 61.